Hi, this is Paul from Model Builder International. Firstly, don't forget to subscribe to the channel to get notified of further videos. And today we're going to flip through the pages of Nuts and Bolts Volume 32. This one's on medium cross-country trucks of the Reichswehr and the Wehrmacht. Okay, so let's have a turn through the pages. As it says on the front, it's basically on the medium cross-country lorries, 3-ton, 6x4, that's twin rear axle of the Reichswehr and Wehrmacht. So, open it up, start off with an introduction. Basically this is about 4 types of lorries developed by 4 different manufacturers. There's Bussing Nag, Krupp, Henschel and Mercedes-Benz, and basically they supplied a load of lorries, all sorts of different backs on them, and this book basically is about those and the variations. So start with introduction. Oops, in actual fact, to the lie. Starts off with some images of a model. Then we have the introduction, development of medium lorries, going back to the 20s, Bussing Nag and their story, and technical descriptions. Then on to the Henschel Type 33, which is one of the main ones. Then on to Krupp. And then Daimler-Benz. So I said earlier Mercedes-Benz, it's Daimler-Benz. There's also Mercedes is mentioned in here as well. Mercedes-Benz and Daimler-Benz, same thing by the looks of it. So, technical descriptions of the various types of vehicles, but for the 4 main manufacturers, they're mostly sort of variations on a theme. Then we get into Daimler-Benz, Mercedes-Benz, and then the different types of vehicle. Basically it's always the same chassis, sometimes the cabs vary, and obviously what's on the back varies a lot. Now this is in German. This tells you which manufacturer produced, as you say, which type, what was on the back of them. Such things as, was it a fuel tanker, was it a radio truck, things like that. And if you come down here using the German and English translations, you can see exactly what each of these is and whether a certain manufacturer made them or not. And you also on this from this you can get the whole list of all the different types of vehicles that were made. And there's all sorts here: telephone line construction, engineering, anti-aircraft vehicle, print shops, telephone vehicles, all sorts of different things. And all the way to the end, aircraft fuel tankers. So go through basically the how many vehicles in a unit, camouflage and markings. Since we started this story back in the Reichswehr, there is a whole range of camouflage and markings these vehicles had, from pre-war camouflage all the way through to wartime camouflage. And conclusion, then modelling these vehicles. Apparently looking at it, there's basically a good talk through of building an ICM kit, and there's certain issues with those kits, which if you read this, you'll get them. Even down to a list of mistakes in the instructions. Acknowledgements. Now on to 71 reference sources in gathering this information together, which is a lot. Then we get on to the black and white photos, period photographs, starting off with a Bussing 3GL6 from the mid-1920s, and these pages are the Bussing Nag vehicles, NAG. onto Henschel vehicles. And going through, there's all sorts of photographs here of the vehicles in use and in pieces, being maintained. The bumpers on the front of these vehicles, there's a story of how those changed over the years. Krupp vehicles, Mercedes-Benz vehicles, special equipment and accessories, like the cross-country tracks that went over the rear two axles, special bodies, technical details and service. Now this is where we get into the different body types. Here's something interesting, a cooling water heater, introduced in 1942 for the Russian winters. And this goes through details of all the different types of bodies that will be on the back of these vehicles. Like here, field kitchens at the top. And you get an exact layout of, for some of them, of exactly what is in the back, even down to what's inside containers, heavy telephone motor vehicle, and you get inside the containers there, what's inside, what's stored on the vehicle. So there's really an awful lot of detail here. Interesting camouflage there. And again, this is a long distance field cable vehicle. That one's a searchlight vehicle. You can see there's all sorts of details of what's going on the back of these trucks and inside the back of these trucks as well, with the different types of radio vehicles, from radio transmission to radio interception, the aerials that went on the back. So if need be, there's enough here to build an interior to some of these kits. And there's a whole pile of special bodies here and what went on the back of these trucks and all the different types. There's a field workshop, taking a bath, clothing decontamination vehicle, fire engines. These are pre-war, and then aircraft fuel tankers, and the different valve arrangements in the back of the vehicles. Then we've got a forestry fire engine. Down to 1/35th scale drawings, a selection of these. It's a bussing nag vehicle. It's a Henschel vehicle. There's a couple of different types of each. A Krupp vehicle and another Krupp vehicle. It's Mercedes-Benz. And these drawings are really good for showing some fine details of where things are placed. I've used these drawings before when building models. The instructions didn't show exactly where it needed to go, so a book, one of these books did. Then what we do is the color profiles. So the way these work is these are images that we've just seen in the black and white part of the book, and then this is basically a color plate of each one. And these are handy for seeing the pre-war colors and pre-war camouflage. And there's a variety of vehicles here, quite a lot actually. Then preserved vehicles, basically vehicles that still exist. As it says here, it cannot be confirmed if any bussing nag 3GLs or KDS survived. Basically, when the war had finished, there was a high demand for these sort of trucks. So literally they were run into the ground. when it became impossible to repair one, it would be stripped and its still working parts would be used on other vehicles. That's why, even though there were so many made, there's very few left of them now. And I think, was it from these Bussing Nag vehicles, there's one chassis in Norway, another one in Russia that was rebuilt from remnants found in the ground from parts from Spain. There's a few Henschel Type 33 around. But you get the idea. There's not many of these left. So having these photographs is pretty good. And they give you a good description of them. This is a vehicle in a Spanish museum, as is this one. And the photographs go through the fine details, and also they point out exactly what the vehicle was built with and which bits have been added somewhere after the war and shouldn't be there. So there's a lot of details here and interesting photographs up close of views you wouldn't normally see anywhere else. There's quite a lot of colour photographs. Old style indicators. Interior views. There's one from a Spanish museum. Because a lot of these were built pre-war, they were used by the Condor Legion in Spain, and a lot of them were left behind. That's why Spain seems to have quite a few of these vehicles left over. Here's one undergoing a major servicing, or rebuild basically. That's the radiator elements. You can see the parts of the chassis. Here's a Henschel fire engine from Latvia. And here's one from the Wheatcroft collection. And this is an interesting vehicle, this one here. It was, this and three like it were captured in Italy, used after the war to establish the US radio and TV station in West Berlin. And they were kept in reserve until into the 70s, just in case they were needed. So they're in really good condition. And interestingly, you can see here the different shading. This little darker grey at the back here, that's closer to the original colour, because there was a piece of wood over that protecting it all these years. So anyway, lots of photographs inside this one. Then we come into building a Krupp L3, and just talks through that and the weathering. Then I'm building a Henschel Type 33, and then building a Mercedes. And a little shout out to Miner, who make the instructions for the tracks for the rear two axles. Miner, they make a set for that, a PE set for that. And there's just on the website, just search for Miner, and you'll find we've got a few news articles from Geordie for them. So all in all, it's a pretty neat book. Basically, there's 224 pages, so it's really quite intense. There's a lot of information in here. If you're building one of these, you want some ideas of what to put in the back of them. If you want to sort of put a lot more detail into one. Like most of these nuts and bolts books, this is the only book you're going to need. Best place to get these is direct from the website. I'll put a link underneath this video. Yeah, so if you want to know about medium cross-country trucks of the Wehrmacht, this is the book to get.